give me a sign if you can unmute yourself. But I will begin the recording. It's exactly 7 p.m. I will begin the recording. I just, you know, I don't want to miss the recording because I want all of you to have access to this. So I'm speaking to two audiences, those who are live, those who are here with me, and those who will be going through the recording. So I'll try my best to be as clear as possible. Um, and yeah, for those of you I've not had the chance of speaking to, hi and welcome again to Financial Management for Entrepreneurs. It's quite an exciting course, and I think that it's going to be the easiest that you're going to do this year because the textbook is quite thorough, and you have multiple examples, you have solutions included. And so I think that if you are dedicated, I don't see you taking any time for instance, just doing the reading. And I gave you a tip about the browsing. So sometimes you feel like you are always tempted to memorize sort of while you are reading, but I would suggest that you browse through the reading and try to see what are some of the sections that come easily to you. Then you will know that those are your strengths, and the sections that are a bit difficult, then you will know that those point to your weaknesses. And so then the good thing would be, for us to interact as often as possible, and make sure that we give you all the opportunities to strengthen yourself. And like some of you have already pointed out, as you starting to read, you can see that there are many elements of accounting, but although it's not accounting, and I did explain in the three first recording that I've sent you. The reason why I've sent 3 recording is that I can't send you one long tutorial, which I feel will be quite boring for you and will defeat the purpose. So I do trim them, to make them, if I can say, more digestible for you. So let me know what you felt about the first recording. If you had any problems, if there are certain things that you couldn't understand, please feel free. Plus, it doesn't mean that your only option, your only opportunity is I can see Ashton, you are able to unmute yourself because I can hear Ashton. All right. So yeah, I'm not too sure about maybe your audio, but just make sure that you get a good headset like mine with a microphone. And remember, perhaps not today, but if you're able, if you're not too shy, let's interact in this tutorial. It is a tutorial. It's not a lecture room for sure. But next time, if you are not quite prepared for this session, just make sure that you get a good headset that you can come live and discuss. All right. And I was saying, remember also you have your emails, and yeah, so you can always send me questions and interact with me. Plus, today I've seen that perhaps some of you are not using. We have on blackboards on Collaborate. Um, yeah, it seems like I heard an echo there. Remember, there will always be some technicalities, but all be probably restore fine. So if you heard an echo there, might be my internet, might be your internet. So there will always be those minute technicalities. But I saw that there is some of you are not using the open room on Collaborate. So there is a room. Actually, you can just click in and go inside and that room. So that could be maybe if you would like to collaborate between each other, if you would like to discuss stuff between each other, or you can go into the room and maybe ask me to come also into the room and we can talk from there. So you see, actually, you don't necessarily need maybe, I know if you have an informal group of WhatsApp, that's also good, but there is also a room that is always available. So you can at any time, or maybe just, book an appointment with me. We can go on this very platform. We can go into a chat room, and we can also discuss. So should you have any issues, also, you all know about OneNote, which is a good thing. I've not started to publish stuff on OneNote, but today I'm gonna, for instance, publish live something on OneNote. So that will be pretty cool. So the reason why I want to share that with you is so that perhaps you are working on a particular problem, you can just take a picture of it, send it to your OneNote. It's pretty easy. You can insert that picture, and should you be struggling with something, I can give you live feedback also on OneNote. So it seems like you have all the tools to make your experience online a fully fledged, beautiful experience. So you have multiple tools, but just use them to make sure that you understand them. All right. So that said, we're going to begin today's session, and I'm going to share my screen. Every time that I will need to share my screen, just give me a couple of seconds to make sure that I'm able to share properly. Um, Sadly, I noticed last time when I was trying to use the the blank whiteboard that it was not quite a good tool for me, because I was not able to properly share my screen and even write, because I do have a Wacom, and I'm able to write. We can work through examples live and all that. So okay, so today, as you can see on your screen, can you see your screen? Just let me know if you can see your screen. Let me know. I'm just scribbling. Let me know if you can see, just in your chat there. Awesome. So I'll prefer to use maybe my own tools than the ones that we have, because the whiteboard is quite limited. But in any case, so let's move ahead for today. Today we are going to cover Learning Unit 3. And if by any chance you've gone through it, it's pretty simple. It's a very short. It's a bit similar to the first chapter. It's a bit short and easy for you to cover. But there's just a few things I would like to point out. But as you can see, it's really about capital management, and there's a reason for that, because when we were talking about the role of a financial manager, one of the things that the financial manager needs to do is really to look after the capital, the working capital. And when you think about the working capital, think always about the current asset, as you can see it here, and the current liability. Your current liabilities, as you know, is your short-term debt. So the principle is fairly simple. It's just to cover all the short-term debt. So for a business to function quite properly, there needs to be, the current assets that covers. I think you do have two ratios as well. Not I think you do have two ratios that you would look at, the ratios that we looked at in Learning Unit 2. You saw that we had the acid test, if you remember well, and these are meant for us to do exactly that. So current asset minus current liability, that will be, if it is positive, you will have a net, that's not really quite a positive. So you will have a net working capital. And the idea also of the operating cycle is quite important, or the cash cycle. So you want the business to be as liquid as possible. That's one of the things, because you need to meet your obligations. So when you're thinking, for instance, about the cash cycle, which is a way of just saying the business needs to be liquid. All right. So when you're thinking about that, you are just thinking about cash. You go from your cash, you buy your inventory, or you take debt, and then you transform the inventory, or if anything that you have taken, all the inventory that you have taken on credit, to transform them into cash. So the quicker you do that, the more efficient you are as a business. And that's the idea of that. That's basically the management side of it. So as you will be in your business, you as entrepreneurs, one day you will have to venture on some of your own project. You need to be able to quickly turn your inventories into cash, and to be as liquid as possible. So that will be the primary objective, will be the operating cycle. So like I said, to be liquid, to make the business as liquid as possible. And one also of the the objectives will be also to generate enough return that is well balanced with the risk that you're taking. You will hear about risk quite a lot, especially if you will have the chance of majoring, for instance, in finance in the future. Risk is really quite an important thing to keep in mind. And for instance, if I go here, this graph, although I'm not a good drawer, I'm not a good scribbler, but as you can see, my drawing here is quite important in the world of finance. You need to understand the principle that the higher the risk you take, the higher the return. So that should be like second nature to you. You should understand that whatever business you are venturing in, if you're not taking enough risk, there is definitely it's quite for sure that you're not going to have really high returns, and that the people who are making the highest returns are somehow also taking great risks. So I trust that that is clear. So that's definitely uh, a finance principle. Okay, so also another objective will be, let me think about another objective, which will be also the interest rate. Every time you're doing a business, I'm just trying to make this as practical as possible for you as entrepreneurs. So you need to think about the risk. That was something that you need to bear in mind, one of your objectives, especially we are speaking about the objectives of working capital management. So these thing here, these things, the whole importance, it's just a small thing, small formula, but it speaks to quite a lot. Like I said in our first session, it was very important to understand that finance has few principles. Sorry, that would be economics. Economics has few principles, but finance does borrow quite a lot from economics. And those few principles can cover quite a lot of things. But I did say again, please make sure that you're not confusing finance with accounting, because finance is broader than accounting and includes quite a lot more. And so sometimes there's so many other principles, financial principles that you need to learn. But as for economics, it's just this. When you understand these few principles, you can understand, even when you have a question paper, or you doing your own business, if you understand these principles, that will be quite fantastic for you. So okay, so another thing to bear in mind, and when I will say it's you, please just bear in mind that, just picture that in your mind, if I can say. So interest rate, you hear a lot about interest rate. So interest rate, or what we call the cost of capital, because there will be, surely you will either borrow money, surely you will have investors coming on board, and giving you the capital that you will need in order for you to expand on your project, to expand on your project. So um, yeah, so you have to think about the interest and the cost of capital. You always try to make sure that you get the capital, but at the 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 the, the lowest cost, as to put it. So that's in itself makes so much sense. Is that if you can get money, money that is given to you, any financier coming on board any project, and you are getting that money and what at the cheapest cost, that makes financial sense. How are we doing so far? I would like always every 15 minutes to check on you. So is this quite clear? Is this simple? Can we move to the rest? All clear. All right. So, and please, if you haven't read, just browse through this, quite easy. The working capital, also another thing will be to obtain optimal return. So yes, we want to take the cost of capital. I'm just going to write it, cost of capital. All right, we want to get it at the lowest cost. Okay, but obviously the return that we are also thinking about when we're thinking about this working capital, the return that we're thinking about, we want to get the highest return as possible. So in this way, you understand why we're dealing, for instance, with an income statement, so that we can look at the cost and the return. Simple. So if you always see an income statement, understand this principle, because the largest revenue that we're going to get, um, with any business, will be the sales. So, but it does make sense that when we are talking about current liability, which is short term, which is less than a year, it does make sense that this current liability be covered by the current asset. We're not going to use our equipment, the equipment that we bought. We're not going to sell the equipment. We're not going to sell our machinery in order to pay short-term loans, short-term debt. That would not make any sense. That's why it does make sense for a financial manager, and you especially, for any business that you're thinking about, to think about your current asset, which is your cash, is your inventory, and to think the reason why it needs to be proper management is that this need to be as liquid as possible. Yes, you're going to have inventory that you are selling, and some of those inventory that you are buying and then selling out, you will need to get them on credit. Credit means that you're getting them on credit, you haven't paid, mean you will repay them at a particular point in time in future. Also, some of the people who are your clients, who are your customers who are buying things from you, will not pay you straight. Some of them you might give them uh, I articles for to pay later. So if you bear that in mind, you have this, but it's not cash and it needs to be liquid. So the time that you are turning into this inventory into cash is quite important. Inventory turnover, which is even a ratio that you do have, you know, is quite important. You need to be able to turn it. And that's why I love the acid test, because the acid test, for instance, you will take the current assets minus the inventory. There is a reason for that, because the inventory is not cash. You want to find out really what is cash. So it's the liquidity and the solvency matter is quite important. All right, so I think that that is clear. We can now move on. Plus, you understand the principle of the higher the return of return versus risk. So risk will always be there in any business that you are doing, and somebody who's conservative person takes less risk will also should know that they can only expect a lower return than somebody who is a risk taker who also see great return, but also with great return or great reward, there can also be great loss. So that should be clear. All right. So it's different from somebody who is taking low risk. He might lose, but he might also is limiting his loss. That's a good term. Is limiting his loss. While if you see somebody taking high risk, high return, the downside also can be the opposite side here can be. I think you are looking at this graph. It's a beautiful graph, but it's saying what it's saying is that the higher the risk also can be the higher the loss. If we are talking about, of course, profit and loss here. I just hope that I'm making this I'm making this as attractive as possible. All right. So somebody was taking, so you will see that the loss year for somebody who is risk adverse is the loss also is low. Let's say maybe a 5 point here, -5, but this one minus maybe 15. Okay. So I love using graphs because they provide you with a good picture. But as you can see, somebody who's taking low risk also has a low return if things go well. But the person who took high risk has got 3 times. All right, so that's that about what you should understand there. Okay, during your reading you would have seen or you will see the overtrading, which is also one of the things. And overtrading is quite an interesting thing because, yes, for that person who want to take risk, for instance, a good example of taking risk is, taking inventory on credit. So asking the supplier, for instance, to sell me more on credit. You see, the good thing is if whatever I'm taking on credit is sold quickly, well, I'm getting a good profit and I'm getting cash, and I can repay my creditor or my supplier. So the supplier here gave me inventory on credit, for which I'm most grateful. If I turn it quickly into cash, I can repay the supplier. And times becomes quite important there, because if my the time cycle, the time for me to repay the supplier is shorter than the time that I get money from question there. Let me just see. I saw a question coming through, but I'm not too sure. Well, I cannot see it. Okay. Seems the question was sent directly to me. Okay. Ashton, you're asking, how sure are we that they are getting their money back from the supplier? Oh, it's a good question. I hope as I'm covering, maybe it's gonna think about learning finance. It's picturing that. So I'm trying my best to make you picture that. Okay, so here are our customers. So some of these customers we might also afford them credit, so we can accept to sell them stuff on credit, and they need also to repay us. So Ashton, on both sides, there is a time period that I need to repay my supplier, and there's a time period that I need to receive or collect, and that's what we call the collection period. So I'm collecting from my customers, and I need to pay my suppliers. Now, if the time that I need to pay my supplier is longer, let's say 60 days as an example, and I am collecting for my customers within 30 days, then by the time that I need to repay my suppliers, I would have already money from my customers, and I will be able to repay my supplier. So that's where these two dates are quite important when you are talking about working capital management, because if the time that I need to pay my supplier is, let's say, 30 days, and is less than the time that I'm getting money from my customers who bought from me on credit, as you can see, there will be a little bit of a problem. So when the 30 days arrives, I don't have the money because I still need to collect my money from my debtors or my customers who bought on credit. So this year, if you all can see, this is a problem. This is not good. Seems like my pen just left me there. Okay, that another question from you, Ashton. So you're saying, okay, if we don't get this money back from the prospective client or multiple clients, what is the process of a business rescue? Good questions that you are asking, really. So yeah, it is what it is, and that's why, as a manager, you as a manager, Ashton, must maybe perhaps decide that your policy. So just allow me to go out of here because I just need to restart the the application in order for me to be able to share again my screen. Huh? Let me see if that's possible there. Of course, you're seeing my screen there, and I'm using an app that is called Bamboo. All right, so you could, Ashton, coming back to you, you could then install a policy or implement a policy that says we will need to collect from our data sooner. That's a business rescue plan already. So you could say, listen, it's not working for us. We have to pay in 30 days our supplier. Then either we make sure we sell we sell cash, and we are not affording credit to anyone so that we can get all the money before the 30 days, because 30 days is quite a short notice. So first we can work on when we are receiving our money, which maybe might even require us. You see, it's always, when it comes to finance, it's about logic. So it's all logical. It's the fact that, okay, we need to get the money sooner. So let's make sure that we don't sell much anymore on credit. Maybe we can decrease how much we sell on credit. Maybe we had 80% that was sold on credit. Maybe we can reverse it. We make only 20% sales on credit and 80% cash. So we have enough cash to make sure that when the 30 days arrive, we can repay our supplier. What do you think about that, Ashton? A second business rescue plan that you could have is that now maybe you can go to your supplier and negotiate with your supplier to say, well, listen, this is not working for us. Could we maybe make it 45 days, or let's say, just say 60 days? So these negotiations need to take place. for a business. So let me know what you think about this in your comments. So, but okay, so I will move my screen to another screen because we have to look at two practical examples from our textbook. So just give me a second there. Ashton, what do you think about the two solutions there? It seems like I have first just to, okay, I'm going into sharing. I'm stopping to share, and